Welcome back to Movich's Tales. Imagine packing your bags, moving to a new country, and instead of you paying for rent, the country actually pays you to live there. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, on my travels, I discovered that this is not just a dream. It's reality in some corners of the world. From Italy's ancient villages to Canada's wide open prairies, today I'm sharing my personal journey through 6 countries that will literally put money in your pocket just for calling them home. Let's dive in. Italy, Calabria, the empty villages. When I first set foot in Italy, I expected pasta, piazzas, and picture perfect sunsets. But what I didn't expect was to be offered money just to stay. My journey took me deep into Calabria, a region most tourists skip in favor of Rome or Venice. But here the story was different. As I walked through narrow cobbled streets, I noticed something strange: closed shutters, empty homes, and a silence that felt almost haunting. Over dinner with a local family, they told me the truth. Young people had left in search of jobs, and the villages were slowly fading away. That's when I learned about Italy's bold plan, offering up to 28,000 euros over 3 years for people willing to settle here, open a business, or even just breathe new life into these quiet towns. I imagined myself running a little cafe in a stone house overlooking the sea, sipping espresso while old men played cards nearby. The thought was magical. But the locals were clear. The money wasn't just free, it was an invitation. An invitation to build, to invest in the community, to trade the rush of modern cities for the rhythm of olive groves and church bells. Walking those ancient streets under the Italian sun, I realized Italy isn't paying you to live there. They're paying you to keep the heartbeat of their history alive. Spain, Asturias, the call of Ponga. Spain has always been a country of fiestas and flamenco for me, but in Asturias, I found something entirely different. The village of Ponga sat tucked away in green mountains, almost forgotten by time. I arrived on a misty morning, and the first sound that greeted me was the church bell echoing through the valley. A local guide explained why Ponga was offering couples up to 3,000 euros just to move there, plus bonuses for every child they raised. I couldn't help but smile. It felt like the village was begging for laughter and footsteps to return to its streets. As I wandered, I passed stone cottages covered in moss, tiny gardens bursting with wildflowers, and neighbors who all seemed to know each other by name. Later that day, I joined a family for a traditional fabada, a rich bean stew that warmed my soul. As they spoke about the lack of young people and empty schools, I imagined what life would be like here. No rush hour traffic, no skyscrapers, just mountains, fresh air, and a paycheck for living simply. The more I thought about it, the more it struck me. Spain isn't just offering money, it's offering a trade. Your energy, your presence, your family, in exchange for peace, beauty, and a chance to rebuild what's fading. Standing on a balcony overlooking the green valley of Ponga, I felt the weight of it, a quiet place whispering, "Come live here. Help us grow again." Ireland, the island dream. Ireland had always been on my bucket list. Green hills, cozy pubs, and folk music spilling into the night. But my journey took me somewhere few ever go: the remote islands off the Irish coast. places where sheep outnumber people, and the Atlantic wind feels like it's telling stories from centuries past. I took a ferry to one of these islands, and the moment I stepped onto the pier, I was welcomed with warmth. The locals spoke about their Our Living Islands policy, offering relocation grants, housing support, and sometimes even funding for entrepreneurs to revive the island life. Over pints of Guinness in a small pub, one fisherman told me, "We don't want money. We want neighbors." That line stuck with me. Walking the cliffs later, I could almost see why people left. Harsh winters, tough jobs, isolation. But then the other side hit me. Absolute peace, breathtaking landscapes, and a tight-knit community that treats you like family. If you're someone looking for solitude with meaning, Ireland's islands don't just offer money, they offer belonging. And as the sun set over the roaring Atlantic, I felt like I'd discovered a hidden gem. A place where €80,000 relocation packages weren't about cash, but about giving life back to a way of living that refuses to die. Switzerland, Albinon, the Alpine bargain. When people say Switzerland, you think luxury. Banks, chocolates, pristine ski resorts. So imagine my shock when I discovered that certain Swiss villages will pay you to move in. I traveled to Albinon, a postcard-perfect village perched in the Alps. Wooden chalets, flower boxes, and views so stunning, they almost felt unreal. But when I spoke with a local shop owner, he explained the truth. Too many young people had left for cities, and the village was slowly aging. To fight back, Albinon offered around $25,000 per adult and $10,000 per child for newcomers, with one condition: you had to stay at least 10 years. I stayed in a small guest house overlooking the mountains, and I remember sitting in the balcony at dawn. The air was crisp. The cowbells echoed in the distance, and for a moment I thought, this is paradise. But then I realized the trade-off: remoteness, long winters, and a life slower than most are ready for. Still, as I wandered the quiet streets, I imagined a new kind of life here. Raising a family, hiking trails every weekend, knowing every neighbor by name. Switzerland's offer isn't just about money, it's about commitment. They're not paying you to survive, they're paying you to choose a life of simplicity in exchange for timeless beauty. Canada, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The Prairie Promise. Canada had always felt like a second home to me. The wide spaces, friendly people, and endless landscapes. But in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, I found something truly surprising. In towns desperate for growth, they're offering financial incentives, housing support, and even pathways to permanent residency if you bring your skills and settle down. I visited a prairie town where wheat fields stretched to the horizon. The air smelled of earth and freedom, and locals spoke about needing teachers, doctors, and small business owners. Over a hearty breakfast of pancakes and maple syrup, one farmer told me, "We've got the land. We just need people to love it." Walking down the main street, I saw shuttered shops alongside family-run cafes. It felt like a place waiting for its next chapter. And with Canada's open arms, $100 relocation incentives here weren't about the cash. They were about opportunity. A place to raise a family with space to breathe, safety to grow, and a future to build. Standing under that vast prairie sky, I realized why Canada's program is so attractive. It's not just about money, it's about being part of a story of growth. a chance to write your own chapter in a land that still feels limitless. Chile, Santiago, the startup nation. Chile was one of the most unexpected stops in my travels. I'd always thought of it as mountains, deserts, and wine. But then I discovered Santiago's Startup Chile program, a government backed initiative that literally pays entrepreneurs to move here, offering grants of up to $80,000. When I arrived in Santiago, the city buzzed with energy. I met young entrepreneurs in co working spaces filled with laptops, coffee cups, and big dreams. One tech founder told me, Chile doesn't just give you money, they give you a stage. And he was right. The program included mentorship, visas, and access to investors, everything a startup needed to grow. I explored the city by day, colorful street art in Bella Vista, the scent of empanadas on every corner, and by night, I joined brainstorming sessions that felt like the future was being built in real time. For me, Chile's offer wasn't about relocation in the traditional sense. It wasn't about empty villages or quiet towns. It was about ideas, about drawing ambitious people from across the world to create something new in Latin America. As I stood on San Cristobal Hill overlooking the sprawling city with the Andes in the background, it struck me. Chile isn't paying you to live there. They're paying you to dream bigger and, in the process, to transform their nation. And there you have it, 6 countries that will actually pay you to live there. But as I discovered on my journey, it's never just about the money. It's about trade-offs, about what you're willing to give and what you're ready to gain. From Italy's forgotten villages to Chile's buzzing startup hubs, each place tells its own story. So, which of these countries would you pack up and move to if given the chance? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your choice. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me again here on Movich's Tales for more stories from around the world. Until next time, keep exploring.